close to you and the resources from the planet close to you. That's 3. So you have the planet, the sun, the solar system, then a galaxy. Harnessing the power from your entire galaxy. Understanding every planet, being able to travel to every planet, which would then, once you master all that, would give you the power to dimensionally shift, to shift dimensions. And this is stuff that we'll get in later, but you got to understand that these 5 stages are what I guess if you want to get into the names like Anunnaki and extraterrestrials and ultraviolets and all these powerful beings that's supposed to exist and the universal laws that they're governed under, which we have a problem with right now, which we'll get into, is what's dealing with a lot of this stuff. So when we get into this down the road, because again, there's a lot of stuff you got to understand before we really dig into this, it's going to make a lot more sense. But for me, touching on a lot of the videos that I put out before is just going to kind of make a lot more sense as we go. So as I've said, there's a lot of aspects to Satan. You have good, bad, light, dark, masculine, feminine, black, white, what have you. So many different aspects to Satan. You just have to understand in what aspect he's being referred to at any given time. So, it can be very confusing if you're not familiar with the esoteric teachings of Satan and all of the occult knowledge. So this is why there's a lot of confusion when it involves him, because, Satan can mean so many different things. So you really got to get into the esoteric teachings, which I have a lot more coming up on Satan down the line, to really grasp everything. So if you've been watching the videos on YouTube and everything like that, you kind of sort of should have an understanding that he represents so many different things. So now it's clear that there was a civilization here on Earth that was highly advanced. Now the Egyptians and the Sumerians talk about a global society, a world society, which explains all the pyramids all over the planet. Plato talks about Atlantis, and that he heard about Atlantis from the Greek Solon, and Solon heard the story from the ancient Egyptians. And a lot of people say that, the design for the pyramids basically comes from Atlantis, but, it's pyramids all over the planet, so you can't really tell by that. But, from my research, and again, this may be tough for a lot of people to grasp if you haven't seen everything. But from my research, there definitely was a war. There's no way around that. You can see that there clearly was a war on this planet, and that we, as a result of this war, these bodies was created. These bodies was created, and our consciousness was put into these bodies, the consciousness of our creators, or, when you really get into it, who you are, your consciousness goes all the way back to, whatever you want to call them. These beings that created us, aliens, whatever you want to call them, your consciousness goes back to them. Plain and simple. The consciousness was put into these bodies. We were put here on this planet to grow. As I said, it was a war, and I believe this war was over energy. It was put here to grow in consciousness and energy. This was an evolutionary planet. We was put here to grow. That was our purpose. And Atlantis was a result of people being here and prospering and everything going right for a period of time until, Atlantis sank and, war began here. Now, these beings that we were at war with, no matter how you want to slice it, whatever you want to call them, the Demiurge, Satan, aliens, the bad guys, whatever you want to call it, they exist. There's no way around that. And again, a lot of this stuff sounds, kind of spooky, but when you get to a point in research, it's undeniable. It's just no way you can go around that. Because if it wasn't for these beings and us dealing with some kind of intelligent being, then we're dealing with humans. We're dealing with normal humans that's just smart and somehow been able for the last, few thousand years to do what, been able to do what they have done, to everybody on the planet. We ain't that smart. I'm sorry. These people are not that smart. I don't give them that kind of credit. Their moves are indicative of somebody giving them orders, because it's just some of the stuff that they do. It's not like if you had this master plan and you was a genius, you would move differently. It's more as if you have people that's being told what to do, and they have to move correctly the first time, and they don't seem to always get it right. And that whole 9/11 fiasco with the plane going through the building is just a hint about that. But everything points to these beings being here and being not human and taking control of the power structure on the planet. So these beings exist. I believe that they at some point turned Saturn from a sun into what it is now, and they had control of it as well as the moon, which a lot of people will tell you they believe is artificial. So yeah, again, before we keep going, we're going to get into a lot of things that's spooky. And as I said, when you get to this level of information, which this is part 6, the first 5 was about a bunch of stuff. But when you get to this level of information, it's not but so much facts that we have. But I always do a if then, as I talked about before when I do my research. If this is true, why is this way? If it's not true, then why is that way? This is how I approach my research, and I tell a lot of people to approach it that way as well. When you approach research that way, you can eliminate a lot of bullshit. So when you step back and look at everything, it's, there's no way in the world they could have kept this up for thousands of years if it wasn't something there with this kind of knowledge. So that's one thing. But it's because of them, we have been trapped in this material body because we lost consciousness, we lost the knowledge and understanding of who we were and the ability to tap into, knowledge. Now, the moon, I've shown you in a lot of movies how the moon is destroyed. The moon is destroyed in so many different movies, and it's trying to tell you something. So when we talk about this war, when you look at the moon, one, is so many craters on the moon, as if, the moon has been attacked repeatedly. Now, to tell you that a volcano erupted on the moon, and that's the cause for some of the scorch marks that's on the moon, because there are scorch marks on the moon. That's bullshit. How come no volcano has erupted since existence that we could see? And when you look at a lot of the craters, they say, well, it's a result of meteors hitting the moon. And you got to understand, we can see the moon, of course, from Earth. And when you look at these craters, if a meteor, from space hit the moon in a lot of these places, because you have some of these craters that are not that deep, there's no way the craters would be as shallow as they are. They would be a lot deeper. A lot of the craters are shallow. When you look at a lot of the, you see these little dark marks on the moon, a lot of people believe that the outer part of the moon, the part we see all the time, the gray part that looks like it's gray sand or what have you, that's an outer facade, and that dark part is a titanium hull of a hollow moon. When you really get into, and there's a lot of books out there who built the moon that really digs into the moon and just asks a lot of questions that make a lot of sense. And everything points to the moon being a construct and being perfectly put in precise position in relation to the sun and our planet for a reason. So what is that reason other than something that is going to affect this planet in a negative way, especially with all of the deception that's surrounded. So when you look at it, you can see clearly that something is up. Now, in order for meteors to hit the moon at the rate that it looks like it's been hitting them, one, we can look up and see it. So that means these meteors would have had to go around the planet, which has a gravitational pull, and then go up and hit a lot of these places on the moon. It's just a lot of these things, when you look at them, it's just like common sense stuff. Like, that's bullshit. It's no way. So it looks as if the moon was attacked, and the only way that these craters in a lot of places make sense is as if they was coming from Earth, as if it was some kind of attack on the moon, and they were trying to blow up the moon. Again, as I talked about before, when you fly across the planet, when you have flown as much as I have, you see the planet. A lot of places I've flown over look like scorched earth. It just looked like something happened. And I'm talking about at the middle of America, when you fly across the U.S., it's a large part that look like ruins, that look like scorched earth. Take the flight from Philly to Phoenix, or from Philly to Vegas, East Coast, to Vegas. You can see what I'm talking about. Anybody that's taken that flight and looked out the window, you know what I'm talking about. It looks crazy. And again, when you look at where we live, we occupy probably 10 to 20% of the state in almost all the states in America. The rest of the state is just empty space. Now, it's hard for people to fathom that, but you got to understand we have roads. That's what roads are built for. Roads are made so you go a certain way. So if it ain't no road there, you're not going to drive in the middle of nowhere. It's no civilization. There's no gas station, no stores or what have you. You're most likely not going to go out there. So a lot of people follow the roads, and the roads take you away from certain areas for a reason. But when you fly across the U.S. and the planet, Europe as well, some stuff is just undeniable. And you can see that, stuff look crazy, it look weird. And we have not, as people, been able to individually go and really examine the planet and what has been taking place. We rely on researchers to do that. And we don't really have the time. And then probably if you go to certain areas anyway, you're going to be stopped. But we bombarded with work. Got to do this, got better things to do. So we don't go and explore like that. Now, it's no coincidence that George Lucas created the Death Star and made it look like Iapetus, which is the moon of Saturn. He was trying to make that connection between Saturn and the moon and get people to understand that esoterically. And a lot of people did. When you start digging into the information, as I said, it's going to lead you to Kemet, it's going to lead you to Saturn, and you're going to start getting into Greek mythology, all the moons and everything like that. This is where all the stuff is leading. So I believe, from my research, from looking at everything, that Atlantis was the civilization that fought this war, and that they probably built some kind of weapon that was able to destroy the moon, but they was basically, destroyed before they could finish it. So when you think about the moon, which has a gravitational pull that is supposed to affect the tides on Earth, so if the moon is in fact a construct and can move like a Death Star, so to speak, then it could possibly affect the tides on Earth, which could cause a big enough wave to basically, send Atlantis, crashing underwater. And it's possibly what happened. A lot of the researchers will say that the ice that was covering basically all of Canada and some of the northern part of the United States basically melted. And that water basically is what caused the sinking of Atlantis, which is possible, but that could have also been done on purpose when you think about how fast that is supposed to have happened. And the fact that these people were smart, they were geniuses, they would have known, they would have understood that it probably wouldn't be a good idea to build Atlantis where it was because of the ice. And if that ice melts, what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure that they would have known that, being as intelligent as they were, and probably would have took that into account. But, it's things that you have to look at when you get into the situation. But all accounts point to that. They point to them building this machine. A lot of times when you see the pictures of Atlantis, you see this tall, pointy tower. And it's weird when you go into the Bible, when you go into Genesis 11, 1 through 9, which another weird thing is when you look at Genesis 11, the first 9 verses is dealing with this tower. So you have Tower 9/11. So that's a weird thing right there. But when you get into Genesis 11, the first 9 verses talking about the tower, remember, it's talking about the tower that the children of men are supposed to build. And, everything that it's talking about, remember, it's talking about in verses 6 and 7. It says, "And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech." And we could possibly take that back to Atlantis. You can fit that with a lot of different things, but it makes you think about why this tower was destroyed, why the people were scattered. And basically, that's what happened when Atlantis sank. It sank and the people were scattered, and Atlantis was supposed to be where, the hub for the consciousness of the people that, when you go look at all these civilizations that had these pyramids, Atlantis was supposed to be the hub for that.